Hi, I'm Susie Schaefer with Aris Medical Solutions. I'm here with the Synergy One group today because we found that most practices think they're HIPAA compliant only to find out they're not during an audit. So what we're going to do today is to give you some education to help protect yourself and prepare so that you won't be caught non-compliant. So what does it really mean to be HIPAA compliant? We're going to cover that. We're going to talk about a little bit about network security, but I'll be honest with you, I could talk for an hour on network security, so this will be more like the Reader's Digest version. And then ultimately, we're going to talk about how to protect your practice, because at the end of the day, that's what we're going to, that's our goal. So when we talk about HIPAA compliance, we talk about why all the rules. And I know I have a lot of people push back on all these government regulations and how they can't stand it. But just so you know, the reason why all of these rules are in place is because we don't own the data. You don't own the data. You are custodians of the data. You may create it, store it, and maintain it, but it is owned by the patient. And patient's information is more than just a medical record. It's a collection of their personal information. And we as an organization have a duty and responsibility to protect not only their medical record, but their personal identifiable information. So that's why we have all the rules. So we try to push back. Don't look at these as rules, but look at them as guidance on how you can learn how to protect your patient's data. So first and foremost, when it comes to policies, procedures, and documentation, if it's not documented, it doesn't exist. And when you're talking about your medical documentation, this is we're talking about the creation of the data. And if your documentation is not medically necessary or your notes don't match what you're billing, you are subject to RAC audits. And they will take your money back if your documentation does not match. Then when we talk about privacy policies and procedures, you know, practices do not get fined and penalized because of a patient complaint. They get fined and penalized because they don't have proper policies and procedures in place to address the complaint or document it. But the documentation is so important because you can ward off an on-site desk audit just by how you answer the phone and the documentation you provide to the Office of Civil Rights. So that's why the documentation is so important. And then when it comes to your security policies and procedures, I will tell you, practices and organizations that suffer data breach are not fined and penalized because they had the breach. They are fined and penalized because they didn't have either a breach notification plan, they didn't notify their patients in a timely manner, but most of the time it's just because they don't have anything in place. So there again, policies, procedures, and documentation are the backbone of HIPAA compliance. And I'm going to say it one more time. If it's not documented, it's not inked to paper, it does not exist in the eyes of the Office of Civil Rights. So what do the hackers really do with the data anyway? Well, first of all, they sell the entire record. And this is the scary part. It's actually less expensive to buy a medical record on the dark web or even on a street corner than it is to pay for their own health insurance. So they assume people's identities and be able to have medical care. And the other part of this is they sell portions of the records. So, you know, we're looking at credit card numbers, everything else, but that's worthless nowadays because they can turn around and get a new credit card. It's shut down within minutes of them using it. So the factor they can use a credit card number is mute at this point. They still do it. But more importantly, it's your social security number that they're interested in. And when a medical record is stolen, they have everything they need to assume someone's identity, steal their information. In fact, a friend of mine about a month ago was contacted by his bank because he was late on his second mortgage, and he says, but I don't have a second mortgage. But he had had some medical problems, and he had gone through so many medical practices we're pretty sure it came from that area. because the hackers know that medical doctors, number one, you didn't go to school to learn how to network security, and we don't want you to know. You need to hire someone that has that expertise to do that, because they know that you don't have proper security measures in place, and that's why medical practices are such a huge target. So what can you do right now to protect yourself? First and foremost, you need to assign a privacy officer and a security officer in every organization, whether you're a business associate or a covered entity. And it can be commonly known as a compliance officer. If you're a small practice, one is just fine. But everyone in this organization needs to know who this person is or who these officers are by these titles. Because if you don't, and the Office of Civil Rights calls up, they're not going to ask for the office manager or the doctor. They ask for privacy, security, or even the compliance officer. And if you don't answer that phone appropriately, you'll be flagged for an audit. And then about the other types of uncertainty, I mentioned earlier about the policies and procedures and documentation. Again, that's going to be the holy grail, so to speak. You have to have that in place. Then comes network security. You just have the basics in place. I do a lot of speaking at conferences, and I can't tell you how many times I ask, do you know what a firewall device is? And people kind of look at me with a deer in the headlights look. You have to have a firewall device, and I'm not talking about something that you buy at Office Depot for $69.95 that has parental controls on it. It has to be an enterprise version. And then the last component you can do right now is encryption for data in motion as well at rest. If you are using any type of mobile devices, more than likely the encryption is included on your device. You just need to activate it. If you're using a laptop, and depending on the operating system, it's included. It's free. Can I say this again? It's free, and it is your only safe harbor. If your devices are lost or stolen and your data is encrypted, it is a non-reportable breach. So these are things that you can do today to protect yourself and protect your practice, because at the end of the day, all you really want to do is protect patient data. Again, it's not just a medical record we're talking about people's personal information. And I'm going to close with, how would you like it if somebody posted your name, address, telephone number, email address, all of that information on the World Wide Web? We call it the Wild Wild West now, because if you are not protecting your facility through network security and things like that, you are literally posting your patient's data out on the Wild Wild West. So thank you. I hope you've enjoyed, and hope we've given you some useful information that you can take and use today. Thank you. And if any of you have any questions or concerns, you can contact me at either sschaefer@Aris Medical Solutions or info@Aris Medical Solutions. Synergy One is a group. You can also go to our website, because we all offer unique services to our clients. Aris Medical Solutions specializes in policies, procedures, and documentation, as well as risk management. We conduct a full risk analysis, uncover your vulnerabilities, so that we can actually help